वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जाने रे. Namaskara and Gasho to all our distinguished guests across the world. Gandhiji's favorite bhajan that is still popular today lays emphasis on the ideals and the virtues one has to follow in life, which is more relevant for the accent on peace and non-violence today than ever. I am Dr. Geeta Barkilaya, founder trustee of Destination Heritage, an organization into creating and inform awareness of India's rich cultural heritage by way of talks, walks, and unique cultural programs that uses these as a lens to understand the gamut of Indian heritage. I am also the managing trustee of Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust, whose first managing trustee was Shamla Ganesh for 10 years, and the first president being former Ambassador Nazareth. Former DGP of Karnataka, he is the present president, Dr. Jija Madhavan Harisi. The many activities of LCT include lectures, cultural performances, former Ambassador Nazareth's book release, tea ceremony, ikebana classes, cookery classes, haiku recitations, etc. Today is a very special day for both the organizations as we celebrate the Mahatma's 150th birth anniversary in the concluding month of the year-long celebrations with a webinar on the Destination Heritage platform. Former Ambassador Gurjit Singh will be in conversation with the former Ambassador Alan Nazareth on the Japanese edition of Ambassador Nazareth Gandhi's outstanding leadership book in the presence of Honorable Consul General Akiko Sugita. The Japanese edition was released by Princess Takamado in Tokyo in 2018. Honorable Akiko Sugita joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan in 1981. Her earlier posting was counselor at the Japanese Embassy in Singapore before her posting as Consul General Bangalore a few weeks ago. Among her many assignments, she was the first secretary, permanent mission of Japan to the United Nations in New York, USA, Consulate General of Japan in San Francisco, USA. She has authored a book on international manners and rules for business persons in Japanese in 2004. This is very handy for those in business to learn business manners and necessary protocol in order to fit in better and work in different cultures and social practices. Madam Honorable Akiko Sugita, a warm welcome and thank you for readily consenting to grace this platform and giving us your time graciously as the guest of honor today. A warm welcome to you once again, Honorable Madam Akiko Sugita. A finely crafted narrative of one of India's distinguished and intrepid diplomats, former Ambassador Pascal Alain Nazareth's life has witnessed historic events at close proximity, who secured his ringside seat to history, having served in India's diplomatic and consular missions in Tokyo, Rangoon, Lima, London, Chicago, and New York, and as India's High Commissioner to Ghana and Ambassador to Egypt and Mexico. Be it the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa, he has had very close encounters with many renowned personalities across the world. An interesting account of his encounters was his being given the well-deserved sobriquet Virginity Nazareth as he championed against the virginity tests on young female migrants by the British in London. But this champion of rights has a dread of spiders, and but some of his adventures are the stuff James Bond movies are made. Stirred but not shaken could very well describe him. Along with his elegant and gracious wife, they are the most cultivated and dynamic couples of the Indian Foreign Service. As ICCR Director General, his cultural sensitivity gave a new cultural dimension to diplomacy and building friendships across continents in the best of Indian traditions. Retired in May 1994, but not from life, he has been a guest lecturer at the National Institute of Advanced Studies (NIAS) and Indian Institute of Management (IIM) Bengaluru and National Defence College New Delhi, besides in many prestigious Ivy League universities abroad. Mr. Nazareth is founder and managing trustee of Sarvodaya International Trust, which is dedicated to promoting Gandhian ideals. On October 9, 2007, Mr. Nazareth was presented the Youth Peace Awards for his lifetime world service. Among previous recipients of this award are Pope John Paul II, the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Mr. Nazareth's first book, Gandhi's Outstanding Leadership, has been published in 12 Indian and 23 foreign languages. The foreword for 12 of its European language editions has been written by former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev. From a diplomat to a Gandhian scholar is indeed a remarkable journey, and he is a role model not only to serving civil servants but to one and all who know him. A very warm and hearty welcome to you, Ambassador Pascal Alan Nazareth, and to your first and maiden webinar, sir. I hope this will be the first of many more webinars to come. Ambassador Gurjit Singh, alumni of JNU, is a former Indian diplomat with 37 years of service and experience. He has been the ambassador of India to Germany, Indonesia, Timor, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union, besides having been in Japan, Sri Lanka, Kenya, and Italy on assignments. He is also Deputy Permanent Representative of India to UNEP and UN Habitat. He has also extensively worked on strengthening ties between India and the African Union. His contribution towards Afro-Asian solidarity is praiseworthy. He is an author, columnist, polyglot, and is currently serving as the Honorary Professor of International Relations at the IIT, Indian Institute of Technology, Indore. He has authored books, popular being The Injera and the Paranta, or India and Ethiopia. The Abalone Factor was among the early books on India-Japan modern business linkages. He has also written books on India's relationships with Japan, Indonesia, and Germany. A comic book and YouTube video were new experiments on India-Indonesia engagement. He frequently writes and appears on TV, commenting on current years. He is an honorary professor of humanities at the Indian Institute of Technology, Indore. He chairs the CII Business Task Force on trilateral cooperation in Africa. He is associated with the Social Impact Investment Movement and is working on expanding it in Africa, along with other trilateral initiatives for B2B engagement. A very warm welcome to you, sir. And I have been authorized by the Board of Trustees of Destination Heritage to make a small musical video as a tribute of Destination Heritage to our the patriarch, the grand young patriarch of diplomacy. So we will be just playing this 1 minute video, which is a tribute by Destination Heritage to you, former Ambassador Nazareth Alansa.
So I once again thank the trustees of Destination Heritage for coming up with this idea of making this special 1 minute video as a tribute to the contribution not only for diplomacy but also as cultural diplomacy of former ambassador Alan Nazareth. So, ladies and gentlemen, be prepared to enjoy the next 45 minutes of understanding Gandhi and his ideals from two excellent ambassadors peppered with the humor, wit, and of course, serious talks too. Question and answers are allowed for within the time limit of 15 minutes. So, the platform is all yours, Ambassador Nazareth and Ambassador Gurjit Singh. So, a warm welcome once again, and over to you, sirs.
Thank you,
Uh,
Geeta. What an
Gurjit,
eloquent and wonderful tribute to the revered Ambassador Alan Nazareth. Uh, I only came to know him as a Gandhian because I think I never really knew him in service. So for me, he is the Gandhian ambassador, not the ambassadorial Gandhi. So I really compliment you, sir, that you transitioned from a world of diplomacy to promoting peace in many more ways through the Gandhian ethos post retirement, and you have been really an icon of that in many ways. You know, sir, when you first went to Japan, I was still just beginning to recognize letters and names in 1960. And Mahatma Gandhi was revered in my family as the father of the nation. So one of the early names I knew was Gandhi because I was born in Amritsar. And to me, Gandhi was Punjabi because there was a Gandhi ground and there were so many people with turbans with the name Gandhi. And I met one day before yesterday a brigadier in the army whose name is Gandhi, but he wears a turban. So, as a young person, 4 years old or 3 years old, to me, Gandhi had to be Punjabi because this is where Gandhi was, including a ground named after him, and everybody revered him. It just took me some years to realize that Gandhiji belonged to the whole of India, and we can't claim him for ourselves. And by the time I was in service, particularly let's say 2007, the father of the Indian nation was now recognized by the UN as the apostle of international nonviolence. When we recognize his birthday as the International Day of Nonviolence. Now, somewhere later, a few years later, when I was also doing my annual Gandhi lectures, I came across Ambassador Nazareth when I was in Indonesia. And I said, there is no better person than him to speak about Gandhi. So I remember he gave such a delightful lecture in Bali to present Mahatma Gandhi in a way that we had never done in Indonesia before. So since then, I have been totally devoted to Ambassador Nazareth's willingness to share his knowledge about Gandhiji and bring the apostle of non-violence message to many, many countries in many, many ways. So, sir, I would like to know, how did you decide that you were going to devote a considerable part of your retired life to promoting Gandhiji?
Gurjit, first of all, I must thank Geeta and you for the really wonderful introduction you have made to me. I'm really overwhelmed. I thank you both very, very much. I must tell you, the first time, I of course also revered Gandhi very much from my youth and from my birth. But the point at which the relevance of Gandhi and his non-violence really sort of struck me very deeply was when, in my first year, visited Hiroshima. I was in fact sent there to represent the embassy at the annual, non-violence day, or whatever they call it, the day of the great Hiroshima tragedy. My mother was with me. I was not yet married. I was so deeply moved by that, honestly. For me, Gandhi then really became alive. To think, really, in the Second World War, 50 million people have been killed to bring down 3 dictators, one in Germany, one in Italy, and one sadly in Japan. 50 million innocent people have been killed. Gandhi brought down plucked the brightest jewel from the British crown. People have died, with his non-violent race. But you add them all up, it doesn't even add up, not just in India, but in all the non-violent revolutions that have taken place all over the world since then. It doesn't even add up to 50,000 people. That really brings out the superiority of the 2 different ways of fighting injustice and dictatorships in the world. But it was in Hiroshima, if I may say, that really this struck me very, very deeply. Of course, during the rest of my career, I did whatever I could to stand up for Gandhi. But even more than during my career, it was with pride that I spoke about religious tolerance being India's gift to the world. Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti. And Udara Charitanam tu Vasudeva Kutumbakam. All the other civilizations have had the concept of the chosen people. It's only in India, from the earliest times, we have spoken about all of mankind as one family. Now, when I was retiring in the last years of my service, sadly I saw this business of religious tolerance, which was India's gift to the world, was being greatly eroded. First of all, what happened to the Christians in Orissa? Graham Staines and his 2 sons being burned to death by a religious bigot. What happened to the Sikhs including in Delhi, in the capital of India? Everyone kept saying, oh, India is going to the dogs. We are in for terrible times. Now, when I was very young, my aunt had given me and my sister, 2 sisters who were staying with my grandmother for our education, because my father was a judge and was being transferred all over. She had given us this simple, it's better to light one little candle than to curse the darkness. That became my motto in life. So when I retired, I said, rather than say the same old thing that India is in for troubled times, I will do whatever I can to light that little candle. I decided to write this book. Not in my wildest dreams did I ever think it would turn out the success it was. But that is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. When you are faced with evil and injustice, you do your duty. Whether you succeed or whether you don't is no concern to you. You have to do your duty. I believe that was my duty at the moment, and I did it. And I feel so grateful. I feel so fulfilled with what I have done. I was much more comfortable, I can assure you, when I was an ambassador. But I feel much happier and more fulfilled in what I have done in my retirement.
Wonderful, sir. So, as Gandhiji was his own man, fulfilling his own vision, I think you did it in your own way. And it's very Gandhian because Gandhiji never prescribed a way. He only said balance the means and the ends and come to that point. And I think you did it that way. You took it upon yourself to show. And truly, I think you rightly mentioned Hiroshima. I remember in my first assignment in Japan, I too went to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I could see the destruction and how it had been replaced with an accommodative spirit of humankind. And the calm of Hiroshima and the anguish of Nagasaki was so starkly different. And I thought this was the end. And after this, humanity has learned its lesson. But I have been to Cambodia and seen the monument of what Pol Pot did. I have been to Rwanda and seen what happened. So these are, much later variations, 2 generations later, and it seems that mankind has not learned its lesson. Therefore, sir, the lesson that you propagate has all the more relevance. And I must tell you that for you, having you at an embassy abroad was the best soft power example that we could use. And you came to us at no cost. You came to us of your own volition and passion. And I found, for instance, in Germany at Heidelberg, I remember, there was nothing better that we could do than have a discussion on your book to relate with Germans of all hues, much as we did in Indonesia. Because while some political leaders may be polarizing or divisive, Gandhiji was the most united factor in the world. And I think, sir, we need to realize that while in 1915, Gandhiji came and changed the ethos of India's agitation for fighting colonialism by bringing it to the people, in 1947, he was the father of the nation. But I think we have all learned that we cannot emulate Gandhiji in a context in which he lived, but we can learn from his teachings and adapt them to our current environment. And if I remember reading different parts of your book, I think this is what you bring out, that how Gandhiji taught non-violence, he taught self-reliance, he taught vegetarianism, he taught many things which are actually intrinsic to a human being, and how to bring humane values into national policy was something that Gandhiji brought. So did you think that in many of your postings, including Japan, you saw this happening?
No, I must confess that during my postings, I didn't see so much of this. What you have mentioned. What I saw, of course, in every one of my postings was Gandhi's impact on the world. Wherever I went, particularly after I became ambassador, everywhere I went, at the highest level, the president, the prime minister, foreign minister, university president, they spoke with such reverence about Gandhi. I was stunned that Gandhi's impact on all the world was so great. Now, just to think about for 12 of my European editions, as you mentioned, or Gita mentioned, Gorbachev has written the foreword. Here is someone brought up in his entire life in the communist tradition, then writes such a reverential tribute to Gandhi in my book, and compares him to be in the same tradition as Tolstoy and other great leaders of Russia. For me, the greatest lesson from Gandhi is a simple one, that each of us must be the change we wish to be in the world. So each of us has to be a revolutionary, and each of us can be a revolutionary, because it needs just one person to trigger something, and then it brings about change. The best example I give to you is of a woman called Rosa Parks in the US. She was a simple, in India we would call her a tailor. She had a job in a department store apparently to stitch buttons on men's shirts. Now, the rule at that time in Montgomery in the US was any black who, in a public bus, who entered the bus first had to enter in the front, pay whatever was the fare, get off the bus, go to the back entrance and occupy all the back seats. Everyone was paying the same fare, but this was what was done to the blacks. At some point, Rosa Parks, had a seat. A white man entered. There was no seats in the front, so she was asked to get up. She said, "I won't get up." That was all that was. She knew what was the consequence of this. She was pulled off the bus. She was arrested. She was fined $50. It must have been a big amount for her at that time. She lost her job but this triggered the revolution that started. Fortunately for her and the world, Martin Luther King had just been ordained and had arrived as a pastor to a church in Montgomery. So he led the bus boycott, which went on for 350 days. And all the blacks refused to ride a bus. They preferred to walk even 10 or 15 miles. The few who were taxi drivers gave free rides to those, not free rides, those who took rides in the taxi paid the same fare as they were paid in the bus. At the end of it, it became a national issue. The Supreme Court decided that all discrimination in public places and in public transport must be stopped. This was the first consequence and the reform of all the racial laws. 50 years later, it put a black president in the White House. But it all started with that one single black woman. When she died, her body was kept in the rotunda in Washington apparently for 7 whole days.
So this is much like what happened to Mahatma Gandhi as Mohandas Gandhi at Petermaritzburg station when he was thrown out. Similar moment.
Yes.
So tell me a little more about how you did your book in Japanese. That would be a fascinating tale today.
For me, it's really like a miracle, and I must pay tribute to a young foreign service officer, a woman officer called. She's a Mizo from Mizoram. Her name was Miyampuri. I had written to 2 ambassadors. Everyone said yes, they do whatever they could, and nothing happened. Then I never give up. So I wrote to the 3rd ambassador, who happened to be Sujan Chinoy. He said, Ambassador, we'll do the best we can. So he put this one on the job. You won't believe it. Within 1 month, the most difficult thing in Japan always is the cost of translation. The inquiries I made would require 10 or 12,000 just for the translation. Obviously, we couldn't afford to pay that. Miyampuri, within 30 days, found a Tibetan, born in India, Tibetan, now a Japanese citizen. His name is Pema Gyalpo. I think you know him. He was a representative of His Holiness in Japan and Southeast Asia for a number of years. So he was asked. I sent the book to him. He read it and he said, I would be honored to translate this book. And when I offered it, we could only offer him $1,000 for the translation. He said the question of accepting any money for translating this book just doesn't arise. For every Tibetan, Gandhi is our most revered figure next to His Holiness. He refused to accept a single penny. Incredible. For me, it was really a miracle. Gandhi himself working on his book in Japanese. And within 4 months, the book was translated, ready for publication. The question was who was going to release it. I suggested various names. Some people suggested some others. Ambassador Suzanne Chinoy came up with the biggest surprise of all. He said, I persuaded her Royal Highness, Imperial Highness, Princess Takamoto to release it. I couldn't believe it. I almost fainted. And he said, no, she has. I know her well, and I know her. She has a great regard, reverence, and respect for Gandhiji, and she has gladly agreed. She came and she spoke on that occasion. It was released at the Vivekananda Center in Tokyo, and I had taken an Indian brocade store, South Indian brocade store there, and I told the ambassador I'd like to present it to her. But that itself was a big rigmarole because of security. That stole had to be sent there, to be examined, scrutinized, etc. But finally they said, yes, we agree. So I presented to her on stage as soon as the book was released. And in fact, the book was before being released, and in fact, the book was released with her wearing my stole, and she looked gorgeous. And she loved it. Yeah, and she loved it.
So I must say that getting something done in Japanese for a leader like Gandhi, who actually never visited Japan,
Yes, yes.
unlike other Indian leaders like say Tagore or Bose or Nehru. So Gandhi never had that physical link with Japan, though he had traveled to the West quite a bit. Nevertheless, what your book captured was that the spirit of Mahatma Gandhi is deeply revered in Japan.
Very much
And, uh,
so.
and I remember in my young days, I met a very old Reverend Nichidatsu Fuji, who passed away in my first posting at the age of 100. But he had won the Jawaharlal Nehru Award for International Understanding in 1978. And he had been coming to India since 1933 to meet Gandhiji. So, would you like to talk a little bit about him and the link that he provided between Japan and Gandhiji?
Yes, he was certainly the first link. And, he had a certain, I don't know how to say, it's like, like a mantra. He would beat his drum and he would recite it. Yeah, exactly. So with that, he had gone to Gandhi's ashram. Gandhi was very struck by it because that particular mantra, invoked peace and harmony and tranquility. So Gandhi then included this particular mantra as the Buddhist prayer in his, multi-religious prayer. And it is still there through all these years. Whenever they sing their, at the Gandhi ashram, they have their prayer meeting. This is one of the things still. So this is the earliest link, if I can recall or that I know, between Gandhi and Japan, and maybe even India and Japan, though India's links with Japan, of course, go very much earlier. But as far as Gandhi is concerned, this is the first link, and we have to be very grateful to this Reverend Fuji. And he built a lot of stupas all over the world. As far as I know, I don't know, maybe you told me, he built, I think, more than 200 stupas in various parts of the world. Just in India, there must be at least 30 or 40 in various parts of India.
In 1965, he built one in Rajgir, which is very well known. Yeah. And last year, when I was in Leh, I saw this big Shanti Stupa. And there I went and read that this was done by the followers of Fuji Guruji, the Nippons on Myohoji group. So I think they have really devoted their life to building the bridges of peace by approaching the human mind, saying you be at peace. And if you are at peace, you can bring peace around you in your society. I think that was indeed very valuable. There was also Kagawa Toyohiko, who had passed away much earlier in 1960, who was actually a Christian social reformer. But he was a pacifist and who left Japan during World War II and then came back later. And he also drew his pacifism much from Gandhiji's thought. So Gandhiji was not popular at that time since he was critical of Japan's role in the Second World War. But I think Kagawa Toyohiko was another good link between.
Without a doubt, and I feel we're proud of him because he was a Christian and he was a Christian activist. He had studied in the US. But very much like Gandhi, his emphasis was on the poor. He was joined the labor movement. He got involved in the labor movement, and the emphasis was on the poor. He certainly is another important link in Gandhi, and someone who worked at the grassroots level. Not many people know him, but he certainly is an amazing person. I admire him greatly. But my two heroes, if I may say in Japan, the people I admire the most. One was the founder of the Keio University. Would you remember his name? I forget it for the moment. I'm sure the person. Yeah, the founder of the Keio University, one of the first modern minds in Japan. And as far as I know, he knew about. As far as I know, he had a great respect for India, as a civilization. But he made a major contribution to Japan. He was in a way the founder of the Meiji Restoration. The other one, of course, whom I admire much, much more greatly is the Japanese environmentalist Masanobu Fukuoka. He was the one who wrote the books about the one, it was called, in the English translation of the book was The One Straw Revolution. And it was such an amazing thing. After the Americans, during the Allied occupation of Japan, or the American occupation of Japan after the war, they introduced land reform. So in Fukuoka's family, there were lots of landowners. They lost much of it, but particularly all their rice lands. But the orange orchard they had was untouched. So he had not heard of Gandhi at that time. He just tried his own things, and now the land was so little. He experimented on on his orange farm, and he had seen almost by accident that in certain areas of his rice fields, which had not been cultivated, the plants seemed to grow better than in his rice fields, on which the family was, invested so much of effort. This is what struck him. So he then began to look at it carefully, and he even began to, various plots, began to plant, just scatter various seeds of fruit and food crops. And we began to watch it. And he found that those left to themselves, nature took care of what he called natural ecology. That nature has a way of looking after all the, all the living creatures on its soil. So from that, he developed this thing about his four great maxims of cultivation. Don't interfere with the land, never use fertilizers, don't plow it even, because then what fertilizes the soil are the organisms in it. So the organisms have a natural way of fertilizing the soil. Nature knows best. And he became an amazing, his discoveries. At one point, he was producing.
So I think you yourself are devoted to environment. I
Yes.
think this Japanese link of environment and Gandhiji's thoughts is very important. So I don't know whether you know, but Gandhiji's famous three monkeys who see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil, seem to have a resonance in Japan, because in Nikko, at the Kosugu shrine, there is on an outer gate the depiction of these three monkeys. It doesn't have any direct linkage, but I know that Gandhiji's three monkeys are also sitting there now. Which one came earlier, I am not too sure, but the thought is the same.
Yeah.
Sir, when I was in Japan in my first assignment, just about learning Japanese, the film Gandhi was released.
Yeah, I would love to know what was the impact of it.
In 1983. And as an embassy, we were invited, but being the junior most, one of my senior officers called me and said, if you read this poster correctly, I'll give you a ticket to see the movie. Now, I did not realize at that time that there is no way you can write Gandhi in Japanese. It is Ganji.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in the title of your book, if you see, it is Ganji.
Exactly.
And then there's a long dash emphasizing the extension of the sound of G. So when you say Ganji, to an Indian mind, it sounds like Gandhi Ji, but with the dha forgotten. But actually, since there is no G sound in Japanese, it was Ganji. It was a tough test for me to pass, but I was so keen to see the film right in the beginning that I managed to figure it out. I think more through guesswork that this must be Gandhi. And I pronounced it Gandhi, which of course my Japanese colleague said, no, you have to pronounce it Ganji. And then you can go and see them. So that film had a tremendous impact on my generation of Japanese. There was not a single Japanese friend of those days in the 80s who had not seen the film and had not suddenly come to realize that here there was a moral soul force which came from India and which could perhaps have been a different way of influencing the world than what Imperial Japan had done till then. So this thought that peace is a better way than war I think this was strongly reinforced by movie. And I
Yeah.
also remember that whenever somebody asked me in India, which in Japan, which was my favorite book, I always said it was the story of my experiments with truth. And we had to increase the number of copies in the library because each time that was published, the number of Japanese people who came wanting to read that book was growing. So we had to keep buying more and more books for presentation and giving it away. And I think the fact that Gandhiji wrote with such simplicity made
Yes.
it easy for Japanese who understood little English to still grasp that book very well.
Very much so. Yes.
So, before we conclude, we have a few minutes. I want to ask you that the moral statecraft which Gandhiji promoted, that good people create just societies, and his idea that God is truth, and his focus on free and compulsory education, the self-supporting primary education, skill development, and the dignity of labor. These were important criteria in Gandhiji's thought. Did you find that in post-war Japan, many of these Gandhiji's ideas were finding implementation?
I was there at a fairly junior level. Also, when I was in Japan, the first part of it was with my mother. Then I got married, and my honeymoon was in Japan. So I'm afraid I didn't have too much time to delve too deeply into into the various things that you have mentioned. You would have a much better appreciation than me of those particular points. But in the light of what you said, the point that you mentioned, truth, and that is very important. People most often speak about Gandhi as the apostle of non-violence. Gandhi was much more an apostle of truth than of non-violence. He was willing to give up non-violence under certain circumstances. In fact, he said, if you find that a man is about to rape a woman, you can try and dissuade him from doing that. But if you are unable to and he proceeds with his evil act, you have the obligation to kill him. So he was willing under certain circumstances to give up, but never to give up truth. Because for him, as you said, truth was God. Now, by emphasizing truth, what Gandhi has done is a major contribution. People don't realize. By doing so, Gandhi was raising religion above the level of religion to spirituality. He was a very devout Hindu, but he said, my religion transcends Hinduism. It binds me firmly to the truth. Now, the great tragedy of the world, Gurjeet, today is there is too much of religion and too little spirituality, which it desperately needs. Spirituality unites people. I believe Guru Nanak, much more than creating a new religion, in many ways raised it to the level of spirituality again by binding it to the truth. Sat Sri Akal, that should be our national greeting, I believe, because Satyam Eva Jayate is our national motto. That should be our. So I believe Gandhi has made a major contribution in that particular respect. And this is one of the things I constantly emphasize, Gandhi's contribution in raising religion to the level of truth. Because truth, for me, religion is like various parts of the mountain. Everyone considers and professes and preaches that his view is the best. But when you get to the top, it's an all-inclusive view. And obviously that is the best view because it's all-inclusive. That is what we need. And this is where I believe Gandhi has great relevance all over the world. And if I may say so, particularly in India today, because when I see the way, for instance, the Muslim community are being both verbally and physically attacked, this is so contrary to the whole Indian tradition for millennia. So I believe this is one aspect of Gandhi and Gandhi's preaching that I would like to see change. Sadly, the Deshbhakts, as they are called, have made Gandhi's assassin as a Deshveer and Gandhi as the Deshdrohi. That's the great tragedy for me.
Indeed, sir. So, since you asked me, in my view, post-war Japan followed the Gandhian principles of truth and non-violence, I think fairly accurately. If you think about an ordinary Japanese person, people associate a person with integrity. That if you
Very
do
much.
something, you will get it back.
Yes.
Similarly, even the constitution is a peace constitution.
Yes.
So non-violence, I think, is rather well put in there. I think simplicity of Japanese culture as evoked from Ikebana to anything else that they do. The sheer simplicity, they don't see it as Gandhian, but I think it is very Gandhian. And I think the symbols of faith, that we have to do what is right and be disciplined about it. That
Yes.
makes the Japanese so socially conscious, which is what Gandhiji's idea of faith was. It was, as you said, not religion, but to be socially disciplined. The only difficult part, I think, of what Gandhiji preached and to follow in Japan is vegetarianism. I know the vegetarian wife, how difficult it was to get, good vegetarian food unless you went to a temple and got, a Buddhist priest's food, which often would not be vegetarian either. So I think you can't take a whole package, but you can see much of Gandhian thought and spirit in Japan. And I think your book on Gandhiji in Japanese has contributed to that in many ways. Before we conclude, any last words, sir?
Yeah, the thing also that I admire greatly, admire most in Japan are two things. One is the integrity, and one is the discipline. Maybe the discipline should come before. They are such a disciplined people. It is a part of their discipline. Why everything is so clean. No one will throw anything anywhere except in a dustbin. And everything is kept so clean. And the integrity, I know the story of one man, an American friend who lived in Hawaii and who had business dealing with Japan. So every now and again, maybe every 3 months, he would fly to Tokyo. He said on one occasion, he had a very special umbrella. It was like a family heirloom, which he took with him because the rain had been predicted. When he was leaving after a good meal, he forgot the umbrella. So he sadly said, well, I've lost a family heirloom. But when he went back there, 3 or 4 months later, he went back to the same restaurant and casually mentioned, last time I came here, I forgot my umbrella. They said, we still have it. They had kept it, and they went to government and gave it. He couldn't believe it. But this is Japan. I'm not surprised. Now, there are many stories like this of the honesty of people. And I am so impressed with it. It is really an amazing. There is so much we can learn from Japan. And I would like and suggest that the Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust must, pick up some of these elements. Already one of our trustees, Sri Krishna Kulkarni, has suggested this business about cleanliness. I would also suggest the thing about the environment, the dedication to the environment. And it is not just the discipline, which creates the ikebana and the love for nature. It is also the great thing about their love for beauty. In fact, there was an American writer, when I first went to Japan, the book had just come out. It was called The Chrysanthemum and the Sword. And in which you must know the book, in which she speaks about the two distinct sort of dimensions of Japanese. On the one hand, they can be highly militaristic. On the other hand, they can, they're completely dedicated to the pursuit of beauty and the cultivation of beauty, which is so true. Which is so true. So it's a country.
Note, sir, I think we should devote our time using the example of your book and your commitment to Gandhiji, that in consonance with Japan, we need to work towards greater world harmony, build the war between peoples through Indo-Japanese collaboration. And I'm sure the Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust will continue to do this. It's been such an honor and a privilege and so interesting to talk to you, sir. You have lived the ideals of Gandhiji, and I'm so proud to be your successor in service and your colleague on this trust. Thank you for a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much, Guruji. You are the best interlocutor I could ever hope for. Yeah. Thank you.
So, thank you, Ambassador Gurjit Singh, for expertly navigating the various issues of Gandhi, his philosophy, his practicalities, and getting the best from the Gandhian diplomat and Gandhian himself, Ambassador Alan Nazareth. So, thank you once again, Ambassador Gurjit Singh and Ambassador Nazareth, sir, for the wonderful mid morning deliberations as to why truth more so and peace and compassion are very important. The sensitivity, the humility, the sense of repartee, and subtle humor that we saw between the two ambassadors, that was in fact exchanged between them with lots of live examples and experiences, was like a whiff of fresh air on a much misunderstood person like Gandhi now, who stood for truth more than violence, non-violence, as Ambassador Nazareth has rightly said, because we mistake Gandhiji for a person, an apostle of of a peace, forgetting that he stood for the truth. And he was an unifying factor in changing the concept of protest. And we also came to know that a protest by an African woman years later saw an African American as the president of USA. We saw the cultural diplomacy at its best on this mid morning session. Non violence is a power that can be wielded by anyone who believes in love and compassion, but truth cannot be compromised. Thank you once again, Ambassadors Gurjit Singh and Ambassadors Pascal Alan Nazareth, for this wonderful interaction and deliberation that we have had in the last 50 minutes. I will just take, there is one question and one compliment. So I'll start off with Mr. Ganesh Shivaswamy, who is an advocate practicing in the High Court, Bengaluru, who says, leaving trees to wisdom of nature is wonderful throughout. It is interesting that nature has a remarkable way of self regulation. I wish humans could do that as well, for it would greatly reduce the need for adversarial education like litigation. Indeed, he has spoken like a lawyer himself. So thank you for that well-meaning compliment, Mr. Ganesh Shivaswamy. We have a very interesting question from Dr. Srivatsa Suresh, also from Bengaluru, who is a retired professor of history, who says, in view of Gandhiji's opposition to INA and Japanese alliance, what explains Japanese admiration for Gandhiji?
That's addressed to Gurjit Singh or to me?
I think you can answer that, Nazareth, sir.
Yeah. Well, the during the interwar years, there certainly was much greater respect and reverence for Subhash Chandra Bose in Japan than for Gandhi. Because at that time, any form of dissent with the ruling power was not tolerated. But after the war, having gone through the terrible destruction that the atom bomb drops on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, obviously there was a great change in the whole Japanese outlook. But also in the Japanese people, traditionally over the many centuries, because of the impact of Buddhism, there was a deep love for peace and tranquility. And that is embedded deep in the Japanese character. So obviously it was just a matter of time before this would re-establish itself. And Gandhi was a great international icon for peace. So there was no doubt at some point that he would come back and he would be embraced by the Japanese people. As we see now, as Gurjit Singh has mentioned, the impact of the Gandhi film, for instance, in Japan, and the impact of my book, that princess of the imperial household should come, release my book, and speak with such a respect about Gandhi at this event, for me is proof of this.
Can I just add to that?
Yes,
You see, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was admired by Imperial Japan during the war period
yes,
because he was in consonance with what they were doing then. And Gandhi was not. But post war Japan is a peaceful Japan which admires Gandhiji more. And in some ways, you must remember that when you go and talk to Japanese people about Bose, very often they will refer to Rash Bihari Bose, who set up the first curry shop in Nakamuraya, his father-in-law, and many other Bose today. So I think you should be careful about your history, for history is very contextual.
Thank you so much, ambassadors. Dr. Srivatsava, this is the advantage of having two ambassadors on the forum, wherein you get two different views also. So, extra bonus. So, that was a question put to Ambassador Nazareth, but then we also had a supplementary from Ambassador Gurjit Singh. Thank you so much, sir. Then there is one more question from Aparna Mishra Deshpande, who says that how do we take Gandhi to the youth? A very relevant question nowadays, because he is forgotten only on October 2nd. Some cosmetic appearances is being done. So I think this is a very relevant question to you, Ambassador Alan Nazareth, sir.
yes. Now, I ever since I retired, I have spoken a great deal at at colleges, universities, etc. Also, my first book, Gandhi's Outstanding Leadership, was written deliberately in a simple style so that even a high school student can read it. The fact that this book has come out in 12 Indian languages and now is in many, many school libraries is, I believe, one way of reaching out to the youth and for the youth to acquire. I do not believe that because now Gandhi's assassin, for instance, is being promoted, that the youth have all taken to this. There may be a small number, but I believe the large number of them still believe deeply Gandhi didn't create anything new. He himself said so. Gandhi was the embodiment of India's millennial values. The ones I've mentioned, Ekam Sat, he himself was an Advaitin of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. These are the values not of Gandhi, they are of India. And I believe the vast majority of Indians, particularly the Hindus, are deeply dedicated to these values. So they will definitely be there. Through the Sarvodaya International Trust, which I and Rajmohan Gandhi we do annual concerts for Gandhi. It was Rajmohan Gandhi who said, Alan, if you have to promote Gandhi in this generation, we have to make him enjoyable again. So he gave an idea, a suggestion that we do a concert for Gandhi. So every October the 2nd, we do a concert for Gandhi. Started off in Bangalore, with 2 or 3 school choirs singing Gandhiji's favorite hymns at the Gandhi statue on MG Road. But since then, it has graduated. It first went into Guru Nanak Bhavan, and then into Chaudhaya Hall. Now it is held every year in the Raj Bhavan Glass House with about 1,200 people present and with the governor as the chief guest. In every one of these, we have children participating. And they enjoy it so much. One of them, the Frank Anthony School Band, which performs, they make their own program, devise their own program, singing Gandhi's favorite hymns and Martin Luther King, We Shall Overcome, etc. But between every hymn, there is an impactful Gandhi quotation, which they themselves have written into the program and read out. For me, it is such a heartwarming experience. We do essay contests, elocution contests with Gandhi through various schools. And I'm amazed to see the sort of things modern children are writing about Gandhi and their hope for the future through him. So I know for certain that Gandhi is still alive and well in this country. Thank God.
Can I just add one sentence?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
All young people today know the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
They are hearing about social entrepreneurship. I put it to you that all these ideas are Gandhian. We need to link Gandhi to these modern articulations and therefore make it more relevant to youth.
Yes. I agree with you completely. Yeah.
Thank you, ambassadors. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. It still holds true, and many of the issues, if we apply it in the Gandhian way, they will make relevance even to this day. And Gandhi is definitely more relevant to the youth of today. That was a wonderful session of 1 hour of deliberations and very well answered question and answers. Thank you so much, Ambassadors Gurjit Singh and Ambassador Alan Nazareth sirs. I now request Honorable Consul General Akiko Sugita to do us the honors of addressing us. We are looking forward to hearing your addressal now, Madam Honorable Consul General Akiko Sugita.
Dr. G.J. Harris Singh, President of the Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust. His Excellency Ambassador P.A. Nazareth. His Excellency Ambassador Gurjit Singh. Trustees, participants. Thank you very much for your introduction, Dr. Gita. It is such a great honor and pleasure to have joined you at the significant discussion on Japanese versions of Gandhi's outstanding leadership on the occasion of the celebration of Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary. I truly enjoyed the discussion between Ambassador Nazareth and Ambassador Singh. It was a rare opportunity for me to read and learn Gandhi's outstanding leadership, a comprehensive masterpiece by Ambassador Nazareth on Gandhi's accomplishments, his life and message that has influenced many people, including the leaders of the world. I have to admit that my knowledge about Gandhi's life and accomplishments were nothing beyond school textbooks and some brief excerpts from his writings. Reading this book was a great journey to learn his lifelong struggle against social injustice, and how he kick-started the massive movements to change the society. It is symbolic to know that Gandhi started his fight against social injustice and extreme racial discrimination in South Africa, far away from his native country, because his message will impact the entire globe as a universal philosophy later in his life. When he was pushed out of the office of Sir Charles Oliphant, a senior member of the Indian Civil Service in Rajkot, he must have felt anger, anxiety, and even hopelessness. But only 10 days later, when he was thrown out from the first-class seat of a train which he rightly deserved in South Africa, he stood up and began his fight to change the society with the power of nonviolence and love. He unveiled his inner supreme self and decided to act for the nameless millions of people. He named it Satyagraha. I stop and ponder here because this was a giant leap for a man to be enlightened and become a fierce fighter. How was that possible? There's no easy answer to it, but guided by Ambassador Nazareth, my personal observation is that there must be some religious experience for him to understand that only the power of love for higher existence, nation, fellow people who are in despair can cope against big walls. No matter how big the wall may be, as long as he has the power of love and continues enduring the hardships, he will be able to penetrate it. It is not an easy task, but he proved it in South Africa and India. He also showed the world that many people followed his teachings without fear. As former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi said, and I quote, "When he spoke of nonviolence, he meant not merely the avoidance of violent actions, but cleansing our hearts of hatred and bitterness." he unveiled the spiritual political power of illiterate and humble have-nots, and I unquote. Gandhi's accomplishment lies in that he touched hundreds of thousands of people's souls and made them act without fear for a higher cause. Science and technology may have advanced to make our life smarter and more convenient, but it has also brought about serious problems such as climate change, air pollution, and international competition of possessing weapons of mass destruction. We are witnessing the human race standing at the crossroads of its fate, whether they can prevent further exploitation of Mother Earth and consequent catastrophic destruction or not. It is in this sense that we all have to listen to Gandhi's message more than ever that Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. Ambassador Nazareth's book assures us that we still have some hope because it reveals that Gandhi's teachings will remain true to everyone as hundreds of thousands of people responded to his teachings once before. This implies that once seizing an opportunity, human beings can enlighten themselves and change their destiny with their will. It is a pleasure to know that this book has been translated to 12 Indian languages and 20 plus foreign languages. It is heartening to know that Her Imperial Highness Princess Takamado graced the ceremony of launching the Japanese version of Ambassador Nazareth's book on April 6, 2018. I hope that many people will be able to read this book, touch Gandhi's spiritual power, and think what one can do to change the world for the better. Last but not least, I would like to commend Ambassador Nazareth and Ambassador Singh for their wonderful presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Consul General of Japan, Akiko Sugita, for the crisp and succinct address and reiterating the ideals of Gandhi as an universal philosophy. It was relevant then and more relevant now. Thank you once again for gracing our platform on this very memorable occasion wherein we are celebrating the last leg of the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Thank you so much once again, Honorable Consul General, for gracing our platform. I now request LCT's President, Dr. Jija Madhavan Hari Singh, to bring this interesting deliberation to an end with her vote of thanks, after which we will be closing this program or ending the program with a Japanese version of Vaishnava Janato, which will be played after that. Over to you, Jija Hari Singh.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta Batkilia. Konnichiwa, minasan. Konnichiwa, Honorable Akiko Sugita-san, Ambassador Alan Nazareth, Ambassador Gurjeet Singh, and friends listening in from across the world. It is my pleasant duty today of proposing the vote of thanks. But before I do that, as the founder trustee of LCT and now the president, I take this opportunity quickly to throw some light on the interesting Japanese and Indian cultural and intellectual programs Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust had presented to the audiences of Bangalore. It has to be mentioned that our inauguration was graced by Ms. Aya Yoshida, Counselor, Embassy of Japan, New Delhi, and Mr. Masayuki Tsutikawa, then Consul of the Consulate of Japan, Bangalore. All the Consul Generals of Bangalore had close associations with LCT events. There has been a wide variety. A Rakugo performance, which is a Japanese sit-down comedy by Utaso Katsura was a great highlight. Many Japanese and Indian music programs by the Royal Echo Group, Kato and Shakuhachi music recital by Mr. T.M. Hoffman, Nico presentation by Haruyo Kimura, Japanese folk songs, and shamisen recital by Tomoko Matsuda, Trio Sayuki, musicians from three different countries, Vietnam, India, and Japan. The combination of Nyogen Le on guitar, Prabhu Edward on tabla, and Meiko Miyazaki on the koto was unique. Dancers from Japan and India also entertained audiences. Odissi Dance by Masako Ono at the inaugural, Mohiniyattam by Gopika Varma, Bharatanatyam Dance by Tomoko Matsuda were some of them. A presentation on Japanese art and architecture by architect Miss Saumya, the presentation on the entry, evolution, and flowering of Buddhism in Japan by, again, former ambassador and founder trustee and first president of LCT, Mr. Alan Nazareth. The presentation on the famous Japanese painter Katsushika Hokusai by Sri Chiranjeev Singh all made a mark. We also had a fashion show by Indian and Japanese ladies of Indian saris and Japanese kimono. Yoga program organized for 25 members of Sakura Kai was also of interest. In addition to these, of course, the Japanese tea ceremony, ikebana, bonsai programs, Japanese film shows were popular. With these few words, now I would like to get on with my assigned duty. When we decided to invite Honorable Consul General Ms. Sugita Akiko, though she had only recently taken over, and due to the pandemic, LCT has not been able to call on her formally yet, she readily agreed. We are grateful. We are very happy and grateful that Honorable Consul General Ms. Akiko Sugita has so graciously consented to be the guest of honor at this function this morning and addressed us significantly for us, assuring LCT all support in our future endeavors. On behalf of the trustees of LCT and on my own behalf, I thank you from my heart, Honorable Sugita-san. I would now like to congratulate first and thank Ambassador Gurjeet Singh and Ambassador Alan Nazareth for this illuminating discussion on Ambassador Nazareth's book on Gandhi in the context of the release of the Japanese edition. The fascinating journey of Ambassador Nazareth, his study of Gandhi, writing this book, capturing the essence of the spirit of Gandhi for the world, to many translations and the recent release of the book by uh, Her Imperial Highness Princess Takamado in Tokyo, the Respect Gandhiji commands in Japan, all came out brilliantly in the discussions. On behalf of LCT and Destination Heritage, as well as on my own behalf, I extend a hearty vote of thanks to Ambassador Gurjeet Singh, who brought out all this from Ambassador Nazareth so beautifully, and equally to Ambassador Nazareth, who has so lucidly enhanced our understanding of Gandhi this morning. Thank you both very much, Ambassador Gurjeet Singh and Ambassador Nazareth. We are grateful to Ms. Gita Bhatkilia, Managing Trustee of LCT, as well as the President of Heritage Destination, for facilitating this program in such a grand manner. Thanks are due to Rakhavendra Rao for his smiling and patient technical support for this program. And thank you all, dear viewers. I would like you to now listen to Gandhiji's favorite hymn. Thank you. Over to Dr. Gita Bhatkilia.
We will now be playing in 1 minute the Japanese version of Gandhiji's famous bhajan.
वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए पीर पलाई जाने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए पीर पलाई जाने रे हर दुखे उपकार करे तो ये मन अभिमान ना आने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए पीर परागी जाने रे 사카라로 가마 사프네 원데 닌다 나카레 케니레 와차카샤만나 니시차라케 타나타나 장나기 케니레 वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए पीर परागी जाने रे 원하로비네 까박더라 히타체 카마크로다 니와야네 바데나르 사이오테노 다르샤나카타 그르에 코테루 나랴레 वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए पीर परागी जाने हर दुखे उपकार करे तो ये मन अभिमान ना आने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए पीर परागी जाने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए पीर परागी जाने रे